maybe the message there is just to be teachable and be open to, some things don't need to be fixed either.
I've taken a little bit from this person that I really liked, took a little bit from this person, a little bit from this person, and sort of made it my own pitch. And that's what really helped me throughout the industry.
The best advice that you can have when you enter the industry is to just listen, talk to people, be very open to meeting new people, ask people to introduce you to people, ask a ton of questions, because everyone in our industry is so more than willing to, give advice and knowledge. And I think that's something that's actually very cool about our industry, because there's some industries that feel very cutthroat, and I would say ours is the complete opposite.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Carpool Conversations. I am here with Delaney Kitching, Marketing Manager at GB Remanufacturing, and Andrew Kitching, Director of Sales at GB Remanufacturing. We had a little turn of events that brought us together today. I had a little cancellation, and we happened to be in Washington, D.C. area for the summit, the legislative summit happening this week. So I was like, who's going to be in town? And one person led me to different names, and eventually Delaney's name came up. So I'm so appreciative of you guys being willing to stop by Bethesda and record this. Andrew happened to be in the car with her when I was had my call with her. So I was like, well, does Andrew want to be on it too? So here we are.
It's good to put people on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
We just landed 35 minutes ago.
Yeah. So your head's not spinning at all. Exactly. You're not on a different time zone at all. Everything's fine. Well, so you guys came from California?
Yes.
So it's actually early for you guys.
Yeah, 3 hours early.
Yeah, it's like 2:00. You guys are fine.
Except for I actually landed in LAX from Spain on Sunday. So I'm a little more...
So you don't know what day it is.
I don't know what day it is.
But we're going to record a podcast.
But that's okay. Let's do it. First podcast.
Yeah, when I was talking to you guys about, what topic should we talk about? I loved what you said, Delaney. So you kind of, I don't know what we're calling the topic quite yet, but it's really about how the industry is really evolving and changing, and how interesting it's becoming for, a younger generation to enter. And I'm hoping you'll tell a little bit about your story coming from the tech industry and then coming to the automotive aftermarket with your family.
Yeah.
And what that journey's been like.
Sure. So I joined GB Reman in 2021. But before that, I graduated college and I worked for a small tech startup in the influencer marketing space. And so as you can sort of imagine, the influencer space is fun and it's fresh and it's dynamic, and it's certainly changed a lot in the last couple years. And so, coming from that industry, I wasn't totally sure what to expect from the aftermarket. Something we've sort of chatted about is that in college, you sort of feel like you hear about the same couple industries, whether it's tech or it's finance or it's, medicine. And I felt like the aftermarket, I had never heard of, from college or anything like that, but I grew up alongside it, not in it, with my dad and grandpa starting our business. But I was sort of, I don't know, I was a little nervous, I guess, to join the industry as, coming from such a talked about and upcoming tech world. And so I was really pleasantly surprised, not to say that I was doubtful that I would enjoy, working for the family business and entering the industry, but I just wasn't sure what to expect. And I think I've been really, really surprised at how many young people are in the industry, first of all, and how many opportunities there are for everyone. I think, our industry is totally changing, but there's also a lot of things that we can take away from what's worked so well. Our industry is super resilient. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for young people, but that maybe aren't necessarily expected or talked about. Mm-hmm. So it's been great so far. I think this podcast is one of the things that is something that sort of shows me like our industry is evolving.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's been really cool. So
yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Andrew? You have a similar but different path.
Yeah. So I went to school for finance and marketing, and I originally wanted to be a financial advisor. And once I got my degree and I went through and got a couple internships, I landed a job at Wells Fargo, and I was like, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I was lucky enough to given the opportunity to jump into a sales role for another automotive company. And I absolutely loved it. I love the networking. I love the travel. I love the just relationship side of things and getting to know people. And I just hit the ground running with that. So yeah, I've been with GB for just over 10 years now. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I kind of have a similar story, but I started after my bachelor's, I started working in like event management and then went into medical sales actually.
Wow.
And really didn't love either one of those industries. And then I kind of took a little sabbatical and came back and got hired by Schrader. And that was kind of like my kickoff in the industry, but I kind of similar to you guys at least had a little bit of insight into the automotive aftermarket because of your family businesses.
Right.
So you knew of it. You knew it was an option for you, but it wasn't an attractive option for you.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't what I first thought I was going to do, right? So but it panned out that way. And I do say, when you jump into this industry, it's a big thing is just to get involved. And that's where you got Yang and you have all these other committees and meetings and stuff that you can go to get involved. And that just makes it a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah. It's a great way to meet people and kind of get a good umbrella view of the industry and everything going on. And
yeah. I think when I was in school and I was studying marketing, you hear a lot of things, you want to be working for some big, cool, I don't know, maybe some really cool brand that you've always followed, like, a lot of fashion brands. Or actually, for me, I wanted to work for Spotify. I had a radio show in college, and I thought it would be the coolest thing. I thought for a long time, actually, that a job that you could do at Spotify was making their playlist. I found out now that it's AI, but
what it might not have been back then.
Yeah. But I always thought, I would do something that was super, super, I thought I would join an industry that was very aligned with my passions. And while I can't sit here and say that I'm super passionate about the parts that go in cars, it's an essential industry. And I think that there's so much to that, that you just, maybe people are hesitant to join it because it's just so ingrained in everyday life that they don't even realize that, that there's a whole industry behind that, and the industry is big and it's powerful. And I wish more young people would, at least consider the aftermarket or even learn about it, have the opportunity to get to know it. And I know AutoCare does some events at colleges and stuff and career fairs and whatnot. So that's a great, that's a great thing that we're starting to try to share the industry with younger generations.
I will say, the more events I've been to the last couple of years, you've noticed more and more young people attend the events. And that's been huge. I mean, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of people just getting out there networking and doing all that. And that's huge for our industry.
Yeah. And, I guess what has been, when I think about like young people entering the industry, and now we're saying like, yeah, there's a lot of technology here. There's a lot of things that are exciting and changing. It's very fast paced. What is it about young, like when you're young and coming in, I would imagine like you have fresh eyes, you're looking at this industry and you probably see potential in some areas, but you're a little bit, I don't know, timid to go out and be like, this is what I think we should do, right? Because who's going to listen to you? You're 22 years old, coming out of college. You don't know anything about the industry. These guys have been in the industry for 40 years. They know the industry. They know what they're doing. So let's talk a little bit about what this could mean. So, and I think we're talking to young people, but I think we're talking to, I don't like using young and old. I don't really love it, but I don't know the other words right now. But like, people that have been in the industry for a long time and people just entering the industry. That's the
industry veterans.
Yes, industry veterans. Yeah, there we go. And then people in the middle, like Andrew and I. Like I think we're very much, Q2, turning the corner to Q3. But I think when you come in and you have ideas and you're trying to think outside the box and you're coming from a tech industry or you're coming from another industry where they did things differently, there's got to be some advice around how to handle those kind of conversations and really make an impact and do great things without stepping on toes, without looking kind of like ignorant, like you don't know enough to be giving us these ideas, you know?
Yeah.
I think ideas should be really welcome. So that's why I think we're talking to all parties, right?
Right.
So there's something about the listening side and there's something about the talking side, and they both need to be kind of done correctly for the dialogue to work. So does anybody have any advice of like, how does someone handle giving ideas?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think Andrew and I have sort of come from similar, backgrounds, obviously being family, but also just in how we've been raised. And I think, something we've sort of talked about in the past is just the importance of listening and trying to, like you said, trying to take what knowledge you can from the people that have made this industry so successful. Obviously, our industry is the way it is because of the people that have been in it for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, or, even, 100 years ago, there was people in this industry making it work. And so I think it's really important, one, that younger generations first just take the time to listen. I would say the best advice you can do, or the best advice that you can have when you enter the industry is to just listen, talk to people, be very open to meeting new people, ask people to introduce you to people, ask a ton of questions, because everyone in our industry is so more than willing to, give advice and knowledge. And I think that's something that's actually very cool about our industry, because there's some industries that feel very cutthroat, and I would say ours is the complete opposite. But so I would say first thing would be to listen. And then the second thing is, there's skills that are being taught now that, maybe weren't being taught 30 years ago. And I think we can apply a lot of those in situations where maybe we're getting the understanding and the expertise from people that have been in the industry for a long time, but you can add, your fresh spin to it. Or maybe it's a very specific skill that you can add, like, I don't know, like, the word's escaping me, but like digital,
like less manual, more,
I guess,
automatic.
like for example, I think a lot of our the younger generation in the industry is kind of bringing our industry up to speed with social media, with content creation, with digital. There's a digital.
I want to help you so bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Digital marketing, digital
fluency, I guess that's what I was looking for. Digital fluency. Okay. So I think you can take an understanding and knowledge from people who've been here for a long time, but then also kind of add your own twist to it and try to fill the gaps where you see them.
Yep.
And I think it's a really cool dynamic, but there's a way to do it respectfully too, without, feeling like you're trying to just reinvent the entire wheel on an industry that clearly works very well.
Yeah, it's on that point. I think it's all about how you present your idea. I think you don't want to come off being younger to a veteran. You don't want to come off like a know-it-all. You want to, it's how you present your ideas is what's key. So once you have your idea and you say, okay, maybe this is a better way we can do this. These are the reasons why, but you gotta be very cautious of how you present that idea so you don't offend people. But to Delaney's point, listening's key, asking questions. I was lucky enough when I was younger in the industry, I had a couple mentors that really took me under their wing and sort of said, hey, look, I think you should do this, or, this is how I do it. If you want to take what I've done in my career is I've taken a little bit from this person that I really liked, took a little bit from this person, a little bit from this person, and sort of made it my own pitch. And that's what really helped me throughout the industry.
Yeah, there's and I don't mean this in a negative way, but I a lot of times, I do a lot of content in front of my bookshelf, and everyone's like, what's your favorite book? And my favorite book is The 4 Agreements.
Okay.
And at its core, The 4 Agreements is kind of a little bit about ego. And it's coming to my brain now because you always want to try to help protect the egos around you. It's a good way to look at things.
Yeah.
So, and it goes for both sides. So the people that are receiving this new information and new ideas, and also the ego of the person giving them. So it's just one way to look at it, that the person receiving this information, whether it's like, well, they don't know anything. They haven't been here long enough. They don't understand why this won't work. I'm like, okay, well, don't squash it.
Right.
Don't ruin the ego so bad that they're not going to bring up any other ideas, right? Like you still want this person to be a little idea shop for you. And then on the flip side, don't bring an idea to somebody and being like, I can't believe you've been doing it wrong all these years.
Yeah.
Like, hello, there's a tool
Exactly.
that does this AI and you just have to press a button. Like you guys are wasting all your time and,
Right.
you know, treating them like they're stupid or something, like you're going to crush their egos. And then they're not going to, like, even if they like your idea, they're not going to like you.
Exactly.
You know, like there's definitely some ego protection that should take place, you know, in this whole thing. So do you guys have any examples of like in your own, you know, company, how this has maybe happened? You know, anyone coming in with fresh eyes or fresh ideas and changes you guys have been open to?
I mean, I was, you know, when I first came in the industry, I was probably at fault for a lot of that. Where
Okay.
I came in like just a little too hot.
Mhm.
It was, you know, I thought I could, you know, change the world and, you know, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And why are we doing it this way? We should be doing it this way. So it was, you know, for my own experience, I was like, okay, you got to throttle back here a
Yeah.
little bit like that. You know, we just, like I said, I just came in a little too hot.
Did somebody tell you that, or did you?
I realized it once I could tell people were sort of hesitant to have conversation with me and a little bit like that. So it was sort of self-inflicted and I sort of realized it myself.
Okay.
Also probably talking to my wife a little bit too. She was like, well, how did you present it? How'd you do that? And so I just sort of had to take a step back and say, okay, I got to stay in my own lane here a little bit, realize that I'm still fairly young and, you know, so it was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
For sure.
So there'll be signs.
Yes.
If this is you.
Yeah.
Anything you can think of over there?
I don't know if anything specific comes to mind, but I would say, yeah, I remember, you know, at certain points from just joining the business, sort of just looking at some of like the ways that we did things or the processes that were in place. And obviously without a full understanding, I would be like, well, that's weird. Why do we do it that way? And why don't we have a set way of doing it this way? Or maybe this could be like way more efficient. But then, you know, you ask the questions and you hear why and you're like, oh, and there's typically room for improvements always, but there was a reason why it was done that way. And I think the key is to, again, like, you know, it's easy to come in hot when you're totally new to something, and you don't understand why
You don't know
things
what you don't know.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know. And so I think it's important to be mindful of that, but also that doesn't mean that you need to stop looking for new ways of doing things or, you know, new ideas or new
Because
innovations.
ultimately your goal is to try and be more efficient for the company and try and just improve in any way that you can. But like I said, it's how you present the information without offending people and doing that stuff. So
Yeah. And I feel like what you're talking about is really being teachable.
Yeah.
You know, like don't be the know-it-all. Be the lifelong learner.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I always tell people, I think I have so much more faith in people who don't know what they don't know, but they're asking questions and they're learning, and you can actively watch them do that and go through that journey versus the people who they're not teachable, they're not moldable. They think the world is really one way and, you know, they're kind of stuck there. I don't have a lot of faith in people like that. So, you know, maybe the message there is just to be teachable and be open to, you know, some things don't need to be fixed either. There's really two schools of thought there.
Exactly.
Right. And where do you want to put your energy? Like you could have a great idea, and it's not that you should squash it completely, but maybe there's just budget issues right now. Maybe it's Q4 and that's just not the priority right now, you know?
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's another thing there too, if like, you know, an idea does get shut down, like understand why.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it budget? Was it timing?
And I think being teachable helps you actually become really confident because you know, you're willing and able to admit that you don't know it all, and that you know, you're going to take something out of this and learn from it and adapt and grow from it. And I think that's so easily done by just asking questions and, you know, don't ask questions just to ask questions, but genuinely, if you're curious about something, ask the question, because it's, like I said, there's a lot of people in this industry, and we're lucky enough within our company that are so more than willing to help you understand why things are the way they are, or if there is improvement that could be made, they're going to ask for your opinion, because it's about trust too, I think, within, your company and your colleagues and your coworkers and whatnot. So
I do think when people enter this industry, it is like a huge elephant to eat, because it's kind of a complicated industry.
Yeah.
To truly understand it from like, manufacturing down to, garage level, like there's a lot of, I mean, the way we get car parts to where they need to go is just mind-boggling.
Yes.
And I can imagine it's just a lot. And I feel like I learned it a bit slower, because like being in marketing, like when I first came in here, I didn't feel like I needed to know. I didn't need to lift the hood, right? Yep. I just needed to do the marketing. I needed to know the main points, this kind of thing. And that's how I approached my career for a long time, until I started getting more involved. I got involved with Yang and some other stuff, and started really being a part of the bigger industry conversations and things like that. And that's when you start feeling like, you should bring some ideas back to your company, because you networked, you talked to somebody about this problem they're having, and we're having the same one, and this is what they did. So, before you start sharing ideas, I do think one of you mentioned kind of like networking and having somebody introduce you to people. That's a huge part of it too, because before you take an idea to your boss, you could have a nice network around you to vet that idea with. Like, tell me all the reasons why this wouldn't work, before you go out in front of that presentation and, whatever.
I would say like with that sort of situation where you're starting to bounce ideas off of people, I think that's huge in our industry. I think there's so many communities within the aftermarket that are very vocal about mentorship programs, like Yang, for example. I've been in the Yang mentorship program for, I think this is my third mentorship program round.
Well, that's awesome.
And it's so great because it gives you access to a group of people your age that you can just talk about ideas with, or challenges, that you're looking at and trying to figure out and solve. But you also have a mentor who, provides basically direct access to, hey, throw anything at me, see if it sticks. Let's talk about it. And I think that's something that's pretty unique about our industry too. People are very, very willing to be there to just chat through things. And then you can, take that conversation, take what you learned from it, and then bring it back to your organization or your supervisor, your boss. But I think the idea exchange is really cool in our industry.
It's so good that you feel that way.
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially just being kind of newer and coming in because how many years have you been?
So I joined in October 2021. So I'm coming up on 4 years. 4 years. Well,
fun 4 years. Yeah. This is a fun 4 years to join.
Yeah.
You joined right after COVID too.
Yes. Yeah. So, so being in a marketing position as well, it was really hard to get a grasp on the whole, the industry as a whole. And I remember starting with just trying to figure out exactly what our parts did, the quality and all that we stand behind, and trying to market that. But then as you start to understand how the industry works, it's such a complex industry. And I remember going to Aftermarket 101, and that tremendously helped understanding the industry as a whole. But even then, I had to have, I don't know, probably 6-7 different people explain to me the difference between a WD.
Good to hear you say that. I heard the same way.
I mean, I was like, when am I going to understand this? I don't know when it's going to click. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, at some point, I don't know when, but I was like, oh yeah, I know how it works.
I still learn things. But told me when I first entered this industry, they're like, talk to me in 10 years. Then you'll kind of start to be, you kind of start to get it. And honestly, that's not far off.
Yeah.
No. It takes a while because, you can understand the diagram now. You understand how it works.
That's exactly what's in my head right now.
You don't got all the context and why, why people are the way they are. What's touchy about, what are WDs touchy about? All these other things. There's just a lot of context. So anyone who has been shut down idea-wise, just know you're not alone. It is a very tough industry, but that is why you need to be able to listen and need to be able to learn things too. But I don't know if that means you keep all of your ideas close to your chest. I still think that they're valid, and you might be surprised what comes out of it. Like this podcast was a passing idea, and luckily it fell on the right ears, but who knows? I just think that it really goes on both sides, and who knows how many ideas get thrown away every year. Great ideas that could really be the big change everybody needed, but they were just passed off too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. To speak on a little bit more about like, being younger in the industry and trying to get a better grasp of what the automotive industry is, walking into AAPEX and walking the trade floor. I mean, it could be super overwhelming, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we do something cool at GB where we'll bring 1 or 2 staff members that, they really don't have any idea of what the automotive industry is.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll bring them out to Vegas. They'll work the booth, they'll walk the show, and they always come back like, oh my God, like, how big is this industry? We have no idea because they don't go to customer events.
What kinds of roles are these?
So this would be
engineers or
engineer,
okay.
An engineering manager, a fulfillment manager,
Okay.
maybe someone in shipping.
Nice.
Even human resources.
Human resources will come out and just be like, wow, this is what the industry is.
What a perfect way for them to see with their eyes.
And then when they come back and they're talking to their employees, they're like, you wouldn't imagine
Yeah.
what I just saw the last couple of days in Vegas.
Oh, that's such a good.
It's pretty neat.
That's a good advice
Yeah.
for people. I know at my previous job when I was working for a supplier, one time I brought my graphic designer.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh, like had so many more ideas. Could finally see like what our competitors are doing and like what everybody's doing." I remember there was one year when we did more SEMA, but there was this. It was like a, I don't know, on like stock as like a stock photo of a guy in like a blue technician uniform onesie, like. Do they even wear those? But it was always the same guy. And he was on like 5 different companies, I'm like the same dude. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm so glad he was there to see. I'm like, how else would you know? Everyone's using this guy, So yeah, that's really great advice. Yeah, just to like expose people early on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like don't wait too long before doing that. Like,
so we've had a couple that are like mid-20s will come out and, we'll show them like what Yang is and just walk the show and try and introduce them to people. And it's pretty neat what they come back with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good to support your employees that way. And just like, because before I worked for the Auto Care Association, I was a very involved member. And I think that really set me apart in my company because if there was ever anything we didn't know, I felt like I had the network to go find out.
Right.
And people knew that. So that was a tool I was able to use throughout my whole career and constantly was able to bring things back to them. So
yeah. I've seen a lot too with like my dad. He is huge on leaning on his network, he remembers everyone's name and if something comes up, he's like, "Oh, let me call so and so," or, "Oh, we're going through this. Let me see what maybe what they've been doing about it," or and I think that's pretty unique to this industry for sure.
Yeah. It's fun once you start finding the people that you're going to grow old in the industry with.
Yes.
Because people do leave, but a lot of them come back.
They come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun, especially, we get to interview a lot of people that have been around for a while and you see the friends that they've had for decades, like these guys are competitors, but they have such good rapport and they've been literally competing for 40 years and they're still got good rapport and laugh together. And, that's going to be us with our little Yang buddies.
That's right. That's right.
Fewer years for me and Andrew, but still. Yeah. So one concept I love is there's old school and new school. It's kind of the, I don't know, play on words. But when we were texting back and forth, something that kind of came out of it was maybe it's not so much old school versus new school. It's old school plus new school, right? So maybe we can just dig into that real quick and what that could look like. Like old school being, this is the way we do things. This is what's worked all this time. And maybe, the new school is adding to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, to me, it's all about finding balance within that, right? Like we've sort of talked about, I don't want to say the same thing too many times, but I really said it's about listening and taking what you can from one generation and then adding your unique perspective on it. And again, like we've talked about, the way that you present it is very important. But I think our industry already does a great job of keeping that mentality of old school plus new school. I think there's a lot of things that we're doing as an industry that is proof of that. you see it at events like this where you have people our age here, going and willing to go speak on Capitol Hill, but we're also speaking with people that have been doing this for a long time, and everyone is just as passionate about it as the next. And I think it's a pretty strong testament to how our industry works to kind of bridge the generational gap, I guess, that is pretty apparent sometimes. Sometimes you're at Yang events and, maybe there's a couple young people, or maybe there's people that have been there for a long time. And, but I think our industry does a great job of sort of bridging that gap and finding that balance of taking what you know and what's worked, and then, listening to new ideas and being open to them as well.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot more companies have invested in younger staff recently. Being I'm on Yang, I deal with the sponsorship committee. So I've been talking to a lot of companies and stuff. And, when I'm asking about their involvement with Yang, they're like, actually, yeah, we used to have only 5 people potentially in Yang. Now we got 10, or now we have 15. Mm-hmm. And they're investing in the young automotive group. And I think it's only going to make the industry grow even more.
I think so too. I think it's going to retain.
Yeah. Big time.
Once you can make friends, you don't really want to leave.
Exactly.
Start over somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you guys have an interesting dynamic too, just coming from family businesses. I'm curious, do you guys ever get in heated arguments with your fathers or uncle, in your case, Andrew, I guess now, but because just different views of the world? And
I wouldn't say arguments. I don't want to speak for both of us, but I think both of us are pretty lucky. I think are within the day-to-day at work, I wouldn't say there's ever arguments and maybe disagreements, but not even really disagreements. It's more, well, why do you think that? Or why do you say that? Or, and again, it comes to talking about
understanding. That's very good.
Yeah. I would say, we're lucky to not have a lot of that, because I actually still live at home. And so I live at home with my mom, my dad, my brother also, and he also works at GB.
Oh, wow.
So, you'd think
you can't afford to argue.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we really can't. And so we don't. So I think
there's not going to be any dinner on the table.
Yeah, it'd be a really awkward dinner.
Yeah.
It'd be a really awkward dinner conversation. If we fought.
Do you have dinner conversations about work?
Typically, no. If things are really busy, I'd say now, work conversations happen, right around AAPEX time, and, all of us are busy, and my mom's like, why are you guys all home so late? I'm like, well, because AAPEX is, a month or 2 months away. And,
but I can't imagine being your mother around the dinner table and you guys are all talking about work, and she's like, why did I fix this meal for us to spend time together?
Yeah, but I would say we're pretty lucky in the sense that there's not a whole ton of that. And I think, that's not always the case for family business. You hear a lot of...
I hear both.
You hear both. You hear really, really good stories, and sometimes you also hear really bad ones. Yeah. But I'd say we're pretty blessed in that sense. But
yeah, I would agree. I think, obviously we're all very passionate about growing the business, and, we look at it, not only day by day, but generation by generation. Mm-hmm. So we try and be very strategic on the decisions we make. And, from time to time, maybe emotions, are out there, but they're all in good intent, right? Mm-hmm. So we're all trying to look out for what's for best for the company. And, but I agree with Delaney. I think for the most part, everything's been pretty smooth. We're one of the lucky ones.
Good.
Yeah.
I would say the intentions part is pretty key, because, it's hard not to go to work and make a decision without thinking about okay, they started this business, they made it work. They've put in so much time and so much effort and so much risk, too, that comes with family business. And we don't want to let them down. We want to not only not let them down, but we want to prove to them that we are the next generation, and we can handle it. Mm-hmm. Or we're learning to handle it as we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that today, but
right.
Always striving to just kind of, I guess, carry on the legacy. And I think that's where the good intentions come from. It's we want to make them proud.
Yeah.
I think too, it, obviously being family, we try and earn that respect, with our employees. Not that it was, so-and-so given to us,
right.
But you got to, put in the time, you got to, earn your stripes sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we both come from that mentality and trying to prove ourselves. And, I think it's been key.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The kind of humbleness there. Well, God, that's awesome. So just to wrap it up, I usually like to go around and just see, if people were to only take away one thing, what do each of you hope that is?
I would say if you're newer in the industry, get your name out there, network like you can imagine, go to all the events, ask questions, listen, get a couple mentors if you're lucky enough, and really just become like a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
And just go to as many events as you can and just sort of hit the ground running.
That's great.
I would agree with all of that. I would say, yeah. And when you do go to those events, it's so easy to say this, especially after doing it for a couple years, but truly there's no reason to be intimidated or scared to go up to someone and just introduce yourself. It's very normal to do that in this industry. And I think as someone, that's young and entering an industry that still relies so heavily on face-to-face and in-person events, it is not uncommon to just go up to someone and introduce yourself. It's not weird. It's not, everyone does it and everyone has done it at some point. So nobody's going to be like, why is this person coming up to me?
This random person.
Yeah.
Delaney introduced herself.
Yeah. They're not going to be like, that was so weird. We're at a networking event and someone just came up and introduced themselves. So just go up to someone and introduce yourself. And, if there's a conversation that's worth having, have it. And if there's not, you met someone and you move on and you try it again with the next person until you find people that the conversation's really easy with. And I guarantee you're going to learn something from them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that would be my best advice.
Yeah, those are great. I think mine is probably along the lines of, kind of for both sides. Listen, be open-minded. To new ideas on both sides. Like, be open to the why they might not be able to work, and be open to why they might be able to work on both sides. But this has been really great. Thank you guys so much for.
Thanks for having us.
Scooting over here at the airport real quick before we all head to DC and walk the hill. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. It was awesome.